I'm a newspaper editor. I'm a radio announcer. I'm a high school football coach. And since I was old enough to stand on the side of a stream next to my dad, I've been an angler. I've fished with bait, lures, and flies. I've fished with spinning gear, fly rods, jigging poles, and tip-ups. I've stood on ice, waded rapids, and been tossed about the deck of a boat. And I want you to love fishing, be it freshwater or... I'm John Kovach. I'm a newspaper editor. I'm a radio announcer. I'm a high school football coach. And since I was old enough to stand on the side of a stream next to my dad, I've been an angler. I've fished with... Good Wednesday afternoon, everybody. It's December 30th. It's the last Yankee Fisherman of 2015. Thanks for joining us on this show, presented weekly by the Dock Shop. This is it. Going to be a new year the next time we meet, and then we'll be back on Thursdays. That'll be Thursday, January 7th. That'll be a 1 o'clock start. We got some really cool stuff coming up in the new year. We'll talk about that later on. We've got some plans. We're going to go to a few events. But it's the new year. There's a lot of reflection. Not one of my favorite holidays, but is what it is. One of the common themes is everything old is new again. And that's what we're going to talk about in this first segment, because the resurgence in bamboo rods has continued. I actually got to cast one thanks to our friend David Schumacher up in Massachusetts a few weeks ago, first time. He uses one of those big two-handed ones, so it's kind of like swinging a baseball bat, but you got a lot of distance out of it, and you can feel the sturdiness and yet the flexibility in that material. It was a totally different experience. We got a chance to talk to two expert bamboo rod makers, Mark Aroner down at Crossroads Angling Auction in Bud Lake, New Jersey. That was taped back in April. And Fred Ketchman of Maine, who we ran into at Art of the Angler. So we're going to let them talk about bamboo rods and why they've gotten hot again all of a sudden in the 21st century. An ancient, really, material that's back in vogue. Mark Aroner. Yankee Fisherman coming to you from the Crossroads Angling Auction in Bud Lake, New Jersey. Mark Aroner joining us. Mark is with Spinoza Rod Company, and you're out of Massachusetts?
Correct.
What drew you to bamboo rods?
I broke the fiberglass rod I had. Somebody told me there was an old gentleman who could fix it for me. And I went to see him, and there were two younger guys, a generation ahead of me, and they were making fabulous bamboo rods. And spur of the moment, I asked them for a job. I ended up, I had to sign a 5-year apprenticeship contract. One of the few people that have done that. And so I worked for 6 years for that company. That was Thomas & Thomas. And then I worked for the H.L. Leonard Rod Company in Central Valley, New York, for a few years, and then through some fortuitous series of accidents, I ended up with all the production equipment from the Leonard Rod Company.
That's amazing. I mean, because those are the foundation of bamboo rod building, really, in the United States, right there, that you got to learn with. How that had to be an incredible knowledge base from which to draw.
It certainly was, and it allows you to sort of pick and choose between a variety of techniques to basically whatever you think best serves your product. My current practice is a blend of techniques that I learned at Thomas & Thomas and at Leonard.
That's tremendous. Now, are you selling just rods that you built, or are you dealing in some that are...
We have an internet business selling used tackle, and then I make some new rods and basically other things that as I feel like.
what would you say is the hallmark of your rod making, your rod design?
I make a lot of different rods. I make stuff for a variety of tastes, but I make absolutely everything that goes on the rods, including the rod tubes, all the brass parts for the rod tubes. You feel that.
Wow, that is heavy. That's a heavy piece of, and that's felt line brass?
Correct.
So having never casted a bamboo rod before, safe to say that each has its own character?
Absolutely. So, boy, there's a lot of different tastes in casting styles, and so I find an enormous range of products being made today. I think there's more individual rod makers right now than there have been ever.
I would have to agree, because I've never seen as many bamboo rods out and heard as much talk about it in the fishing community as I have in, say, the past 2 to 3 years. I think there's a real interest, and I think a lot of it is in the craftsmanship that it sounds like you bring a really unique perspective on. Are they still...
There's very few people that will make everything themselves and make it with a real high level of finish and artistic flair to it. What I like to be able to do is basically a customer can walk into a room and see like 50 rods, and he'll be able to pick mine out because he'll have a style that's all its own, and sort of integrity of finish work. Basically, I try and make the rods with as much longevity as you can possibly make in them, and as much utility, while still sort of maintaining the kind of a traditional approach, because essentially what we're talking about is a utilitarian object. So our closest relation to that would not be static artwork, but a shotgun or an exotic sports car or something like that.
As a rod maker, then, would you say that you would prefer that a rod that you built was fished and fished and fished and not hung up on a wall someplace?
Oh, sure. And make them to fish with. So,
now, where can people get your rods?
From our website, www.spinozarods.com. I don't really have any dealers. Occasionally, a used one will show up on somebody's list, but they generally sell pretty quickly.
And do you will you build to spec, or do you build them all ahead of time?
I do very few stock rods these days. Sometimes I'll do something as a test piece for myself to test like a theory or to fill like a certain fishing niche for me. But most everything is done expressly for a customer.
If somebody's thinking about buying a bamboo rod, what advice would you give them? Other than buy one of yours.
Order early and often, because I have waiting periods that can be over 5 years.
Wow. And is that
depending on what you order? In fact, some of them can be a lot longer than that. If it's something that I can't get to for a long period of time, but generally we're talking about basically a year or more for something, even if I have parts in stock right now. I've got 6 or 7 blanks ready to be ferruled up, sitting on the bench right now.
All right. So Mark, thank you very much. Mark, thank you very much.
Every year. Yankee Fisherman at Art of the Angler in Danbury, presented by the Catskill Fly Fishing Center and Museum. We're with Fred Ketchman, FD Ketchman Fly Rod Company, Kittery, Maine. We're talking about bamboo rods. We've seen a resurgence in the last few years in bamboo. Why?
I think people have discovered that there's a lot of pleasure in fishing a bamboo rod. It's easier to cast, it's more forgiving than a lot of the graphite materials that most rods are made out of today. And I think there's also a huge interest in people wanting to get back to the simpler way of fishing, the way their fathers, their grandfathers fished 50, 60, 80 years ago.
Why did we get away from bamboo as a rod-making material?
A couple of things happened. Number one, after World War II, they developed some cheaper materials that were easier and faster and quicker to make rods out of, like fiberglass, and then eventually that was replaced with carbon fibers. But I think the real nail in the coffin was in the early 1950s when Mao Zedong took over and the communists ruled China. The U.S. put an embargo against importing anything from that country, and that included the bamboo that factories are using to make rods from. So as they saw the supply of their raw material dwindle, they had to come up with something different.
What's more popular, the vintage bamboo rod or the new bamboo rod?
I would say that they're both equally popular. A lot of people start out buying a vintage rod, and the more they fish it and they study it and maybe do some research about it, the more interest they get in bamboo. And then as they want to maybe specialize, they might not be able to find a vintage rod that's just exactly what they're looking for. That's when I oftentimes get a call from somebody that says, "Can you make me a rod that'll do this and this and this and this?"
And you make those custom?
Yes.
How long does it take from order to delivery?
Right now my backlog is probably 4 months. It takes about 2 weeks to make a rod. It's anywhere from about 45 to 60 hours to make a rod, spread out over that 2-week period of time. So you have a little downtime where you're waiting for the glue to cure and the varnish to harden, but it's about a 2-week process to make a rod.
And is it affordable for most anglers, or is it a pretty big investment?
Custom rods, my custom rods, for instance, start at $1,500 and go on up. You can buy vintage, antique rods for a lot less money, and I oftentimes see people who start out spending less money on a vintage rod, but after they get 1 or 2 of those rods, that's usually when they want to specialize and graduate into a custom rod.
Where can people get information on FD Ketchman Rod Company?
I have a website, KetchmanFlyRods.com, and it's got all the contact information there.
Fred Ketchman of the FD Ketchman Rod Company, Kittery, Maine. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, John. You're welcome.
And we want to thank Mark and Fred for their insight into bamboo rods. Just really awesome to see some of those historic old pieces of equipment being used again. I'll tell you what, they'd look great on a wall too, although they were made to be fished. When we come back, we'll talk about something that's nothing, and yet it's everything, on Yankee Fisherman, presented by the Dock Shop. Well, there's still a bite out on the water. Most anglers have decided to stow the gear for the winter. Just because Mother Nature isn't cooperating doesn't mean you can't see the latest models of all your favorite gear. With 2 convenient locations, it couldn't be easier to get your fix of summer. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the New England coast, this is a unique place to shop. The Dock Shop, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, 609 Riverside Avenue, Westport, or on the web, dockshop.com.
When you experience a sports injury, you want to get better and fast. Coastal Ortho Express gives you direct access to orthopedic care quickly. Their physicians are fellowship trained in sports medicine at world-class universities and are also team doctors for area football teams. For specialized personal care of sports injuries, go to Coastal Ortho Express, open Monday through Saturday in the iPark Building, 761 Main Avenue in Norwalk, or coastalorthoexpress.com. Coastal Orthopedics, keeping you on the move.
It's time to come back to hometown banking, where people are taken into account, not just balances. Where community comes first. A place where there's more than one kind of interest. Where automation will never replace consideration. Where they not only know your name, they know your dog's name too. It's time to expect more. It's time to bank well. Bank smart. Bank local. Bank well.
Here at the Darien Sports Shop, we are very excited about our newly redesigned men's department. Gentlemen, if you're shopping for work, weekend, or wedding, we've got the latest styles and trends inside our spacious new department just for you. We have vast selections from Peter Millar, Vineyard Vines, Johnny O, Duckhead, Barber, and so much more. And you can even walk out of the store in the new Wolverine 1,000-mile men's boot. Conveniently located with free and easy parking at 1127 Post Road, Darien, Connecticut, or shop us online at dariensport.com.
Hi, I'm Rob Adams with my good friend Donald Eng, and we're the home team for Nutmeg Sports, Monday through Wednesday at 2 o'clock right here on the HAN Network. We are the place for all things Connecticut sports, so come hang out with us on Nutmeg Sports. Don? They don't call him the best color man in the game for nothing. Nutmeg Sports, 2 o'clock Monday through Wednesday right here on the HAN Network.
Welcome back to Yankee Fisherman, presented by the Dock Shop, this Wednesday, December 30th. Again, we're on Wednesday because of the holiday. Happy New Year early, everybody. We ring in the new on Friday. We're back to our regular 1 o'clock Thursday time slot on January 7th, and we'll talk when we come back later on about some of the stuff we've got planned for the new year. Right now, let's revisit with somebody we've had on the show before, and he's an awful lot of fun. He's one of the most fun guys that you run into on the circuit when you're doing these shows. It's Ted Patlin. He's a champion fly tyer, creative, and he's going to tie a fly. I was going to try to use another word, creation. I'm just going to leave it. It's a fascinating watch, but this fly, as he describes it, it's nothing and yet it's everything. And it's a way to get all those scraps off of your tie-in bench. Take a look.
It's a fluffy, nymphy, emerger thingy.
We're with Ted Patlin at Art of the Angler, and he's going to tie up one of his patterns for us.
A pattern that can be used for emergers, wet flies, dead, dry flies.
Versatile's good.
And versatile's easy. It's a generic pattern. You can change the style of the hook. You get a different look. Size of the hook, you have a different insect. It's the same procedure. There's no recipe. You're just imitating something sparse that floats in the water. Most insects have a couple tails, a body, gills, legs, maybe a wing case popping out. They all look basically the same. Considering a fish doesn't know it's a fish and doesn't know what it's doing and it's just eating what's coming near its mouth. So this is what we're attempting, trying to make something that looks buggy, but more so reacts like an insect where a fish is feeding.
And so looking for something that's nothing and everything, it sounds
bingo.
Like.
Yeah, it's just a matter of using just thinking, trying to make an insect is a lifeless entity. So, and it's a weightless entity. A hook is equal in mass and weight to about 10,000 insects. Yeah, so if you put a lot of weight on this, it floats like a rock. It just goes straight down, hit the bottom. When you catch fish, of course you're going to catch fish, but this is more or less designed to hang in the surface. You can fish it deep by adding split shot to the line. You can float it. It's just a nice, useful little fly.
That's going to suspend in the collar.
That's right. Again, you can use whatever material you want, but I just use this one feather. You put a suggestion for tails. trout don't count. However, if you put 25 hairs versus 3 little hairs that they use, now you have a different bulk. You want to put them? Go right ahead. I'm tying this more sparser like this. And you tie it off. Now we want a suggestion of a body. We could use a dubbing. This is this gray fluffy stuff off the bottom of just about any.
Just the fluff that you're generally going to throw away.
Yeah, that's the dubbing. Bring it, start it in the back, loose coils, and now you have a body. You have a body with little fibers moving all over the place. Gives you the illusion of light. The light goes through it. You have this movement. It's fun. Now, if you want to make it tighter, you go through with the thread a couple times. It makes it tighter, gives you a different silhouette. You also get the color of the thread showing through now, so you can adjust the colors of these flies by adjusting the color of the thread. There's no rule. All right, now a thorax has a bulk, so you could use more of the same dubbing. You could use peacock. Basically, anything you want, make it.
Whatever's laying around the bench.
Yeah, exactly. Do I have anything around the bench? Yeah, this is a grayer color. We'll put a grayer color underneath here. It's also better to see. Remember, you can change this. And what you want to do is just put enough in here. And if you want to use possum or rabbit or whatever, you use whatever you want. So now you got a thin abdomen, a thick thorax, and tail. Now you want to add legs. There's 100 ways to add legs. Let's go back to this one exotic feather. Take about enough that you want to show the legs. That's enough for 2 insects. Hold it right on top of the hook, and this is the amount I want the legs to show. There's 100 ways to do it. Here's an easy way. All right, I got them right on top of the shank and hook, and I'm pinching the hook. As I put the thread over and I just go like this, the thread's pulling the feather fibers on the bottom. That's where the legs are, right? Not that it really matters. Make a couple turns. You cut this top off. A couple more turns, and you get this mess sticking out. Push it back and down. And don't cut the thread like I did. And now you have these fibers sticking down. They're all over the place. It gives you an illusion. Remember, if you're a trout, you live in a river. On human terms, you are a moron. Nobody lives in a river. It's a miserable environment. Now you take some more of this fluffier, and this will finish the fly. A nice piece about this big. Right, that was off the fluff, and I'm going to compress it. Have the tips just about where the body is. And this gray stuff is beautiful. Go over once, pinch it a couple times, and that's holding it down. And this darker stuff is on top, and this little gray stuff I'm not going to cut off because that gives me more illusion of movement. Well, it's not an illusion, it is movement. Illusion of life. And now I doubled it back. So by doubling it back, and then pulling it up, and then tying the head directly over that, it's locking that top feather in. And when you lock that top feather in, it's stronger, whip finish, and you're done. And it looks like this movement, this mess. However, you should be able to see all these little facets, and there should be a glow around this thing.
Yeah, there truly is. It's really a great fly. It's really just made with
garbage.
Whatever happened to be laying around eventually.
Yeah, or somebody's old sweater or fluff from a tabletop, and you put it together, and again, you change the hook style, you got a different look. You go to a small one, you have a midge. You can go bigger and do the same thing, put a little bit more fluff in the belly area, and you have something for a green drake imitation, something hanging in a current. You can make any color you want, use whatever materials you want.
Great way to clean up the bench.
That's right.
Thanks, Ted.
Anytime, John. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Ted Patlin, back with us on Yankee Fisherman.
And that's a versatile fly that Ted Patlin just tied there for us. It's got that caddis look to it. It's got that emerger look to it. It's really buggy. It's not overly complicated, which is awesome. And it's something I'm looking forward to tying and trying in the new year. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about what's coming up in 2016 on Yankee Fisherman, presented by the Dock Shop. Well, there's still a bite out on the water. Most anglers have decided to stow the gear for the winter. If that's the case, keep one thing in mind. It's always summer at the Dock Shop. Just because Mother Nature isn't cooperating doesn't mean you can't see the latest models of all your favorite gear. The Dock Shop is not your average bait and tackle store. They offer a wide array of products, including apparel, jewelry, home furnishings, and some flat-out cool stuff. All with a nautical theme, most made in the USA. With 2 convenient locations, it couldn't be easier to get your fix of summer. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the New England coast, this is a unique place to shop. The Dock Shop, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, 609 Riverside Avenue, Westport, or on the web, dockshop.com.
Healthy, confident smiles begin at Stratford Orthodontics. Conveniently located on Main Street, we are Stratford's hometown orthodontist. We offer the latest in orthodontic technology, including Damon braces and Invisalign. We always accept new patients. Call today to schedule a complimentary consultation. 203-375-8332. Stratford Orthodontics, 2499 Main Street, Stratford. 203-375-8332. And online at stratfordsmile.com.
Does buying a car leave you feeling like you're chasing your tail? Head straight to Pamby Chrysler Jeep Dodge and Ram and take car buying in a whole new direction.
In Pound Ridge since 1993, the Wine Connection is one of America's best wine shops. Visit our beautiful store for the greatest in wine and knowledgeable service. With wonderful values from around the world to collectibles for your cellar, we are your one-stop source. Visit our online shop at wineconn.com and make sure to sign up for email updates. With great offers, new arrivals, and special events, don't miss all the action at the Wine Connection, including tastings every weekend. The Wine Connection, located at 32 Westchester Avenue, Pound Ridge, New York. I'm Kate Chaplinsky. Join us for Coffee Break, weekdays at 11 to get the latest Connecticut news, weather, high school sports, and more. News doesn't get any more local than on Coffee Break on the HAN network.
Welcome back to Yankee Fisherman, presented by the Dock Shop on HANradio.com this Wednesday, December 30th. The final segment of the final Yankee Fisherman of 2016 will be 2015. I'm jumping ahead. We'll be back for 2016 on Thursday, January 7th, 1 o'clock. We've got an interview with Fishy Fulham, and we're going to have some footage from some New Year's fishing. There's 2 trips that I know of planned. They are open. My NSTU is going to be doing its annual outing at Merwin Meadows. That's in Wilton. They'll fish the Norwalk River there. Really nice, very accessible spot there. Nutmeg TU is doing its. They are meeting in the church at the corner of Congress Street and Route, I believe it's 58 there, Stratfield, by GE, right along the Mill River. It's a great little stretch there, some native trout there. It's a stretch we have to protect. And there is news out of Easton this week that referred to planning and zoning is a plan to put senior housing at the former Prayer Center South Park site. It was being looked at for a number of things. An aquatic center for Sacred Heart University was one. According to Nancy Doniger in the Easton Courier, Sacred Heart has now turned its attention to another property. That's on hold. So the Board of Selectmen in Easton asking the Easton Planning and Zoning Commission for advice on whether there is a need for senior housing and is that site an appropriate place for it. A lot of people want to really make sure that's preserved. Very important trout stream there. 2016, we'll be back. We have Fishy Fulham. We're going to have 3D printing of reels. We've got a bunch of events coming up. Get out on New Year's and fish. And if you do, tight lines.